okay?
But Peter,
Yes.
if we migrate piecemeal, what is the cost of that? If we go with a new system, all the bells and whistles and put it in now versus piecemealing and perhaps squeezing another 3 or 4 years out of this, how are we gonna come out financially?
I've provided some quotes to Jason
Okay,
with options, and the least expensive of those is about $8,500, roughly. And if you go, I'll call it full boat, with all the bells and whistles that I'll show you, some of which you feel may or may not be beneficial, could be as much as about 15,000. Okay? So that's very rough figures, but you know, some of those are optional, and you may say, don't necessarily need that. Okay? All right, this may help to answer some of your questions more specifically. Very simple rendition of basically what you have today. You've got a system cabinet that looks like that. You've got existing phones that basically look like those. And inside that black box are circuit cards that allow the phones to function and allow lines to the outside world to be connected, and also has the voicemail for the system. Okay? So that's, in simple terms, what you have today. If you went the simplest, least expensive way for you to move forward, this would stay in place, and in your case, all of the cards that are in there, except the main processor and the voicemail, could remain in use. All of your phones that you have today could remain in use. This small cabinet, it's only about this high, would go in your phone closet and would connect to the existing cabinet, and the processor that's in that new box would become the brains of the system, if you will. It would have the new voicemail in it and can talk directly to all that equipment that's in place today.
Peter, new voicemail versus old voicemail, isn't voicemail?
They do the same things. The voicemail card that's in here cannot communicate to this. So that's why there would be a new voicemail.
And so what does it do? The new box is going to allow me to call in from home and find out what my voice messages are, or what's different about it?
The voicemail itself is how it works to the end user is almost identical. Physically, it's a different card that goes in here and is manufactured different than the voicemail card that's in there.
Good question, Peter. If you put that in, as you've shown it on the screen, and the big black box underneath goes, and you have to replace that, is that going to require replacement of some of the peripheral equipment like the one on top, or can you replace it with something that will handle all this other equipment?
Good question.
This would remain in place, and I'll show you how that growth could happen moving forward.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
So, again, let's say you did this.
Is this an eye test?
I failed.
If you did this, let's say that one of these phones broke, or a card in here broke a year from now, or 2 years from now, or whenever. Okay? If we had one of these older model phones, you could buy that, we'd sell it to you. But the new phones will work on this. So if some of these went bad, it would make sense not to buy an older one, to buy one of the newer ones, because it would cost you essentially the same. So it would only make sense to replace it with the newer version. Okay? And again, if one of these cards went bad in here, if we had one, you could buy one and we'd put it in, but the cards that go in these cabinets are less expensive. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense to buy an older card that you know is end of manufacture. It would make sense to buy a replacement that would go in this new box.
So when something goes in the big box, you can replace it with something in the small box?
Yes, correct, sir.
Okay.
And that would work with the old equipment.
Yes,
Okay.
okay? All right. Basically, all they're saying here is a little bit bigger picture of that box I showed you in the previous slide. There's a little card that goes in here that makes this talk to the older equipment. And all the phones and hardware that's in the old box. So it's not a very dramatic replacement. It's simply, in short, is a new processor and a new box that talks to the old equipment that allows you to do several things. To use your old equipment, as I've said, as you move forward or need to replace things, you can do those as needed without the expense of having to replace everything now. And now it's supported. What I mean by that is the older equipment, after September, NEC is ending manufacturing, and they're going to start limiting support of that. Meaning when companies like ours call NEC and say, hey, I've got a customer that has this old equipment, it has problems, what can we do to fix it? They're going to say, it's discontinued. We can't get you parts. We can't get you new software for that. We'll talk to you on the phone and try to help you to address the needs of this customer, but we've been telling you, Black Box, for a couple of years now that you need to move on, so we've got limited resources that we can use to help you, okay? But when you put this new come on, that'll go away in a second. I hit a button here. When you put this new cabinet in, then it's supported, meaning NEC will say, you have this new box, it has the new software, we can assist you better to address any issues that are there.
So we can run the old box with existing software. When that breaks, then you just kill it in that box and stick a card in the new one, and that'll take care of it. Right?
You'd run the old box with the software that's in here.
Okay, but Peter,
This becomes the brains.
the IPK or the IPK2, whatever that box is, that's the old one.
Yes, sir.
When that goes, you've now got your new SV8100 that makes everything talk. When that old modular goes, what happens?
Okay. This,
Does that render the system gone?
no. This has slots in it that can take additional cards that could run
Okay.
the old phones or the newer phones,
Okay.
okay? And if you got to the point where this was full, let me show you here. That's the primary cabinet. You can add another one.
Now, what does that do to your capacity? Double it?
It more than doubles it.
More than double it?
Your existing system could go up to about 125 phones at maximum capacity. you could go up to 350 phones
By adding another box.
by adding additional hardware. Like this, basically. That's 2 boxes, 4 boxes. You could grow with this system way beyond what you would ever need to do, but it's designed to be modular like that so that you don't have to pay for a tractor trailer when what you need is a pickup truck. Okay?
Excuse me, Peter, I'd like to ask Commissioner Solomon a question. Commissioner Solomon, do each one of the residents in the nursing home have their own private phone?
I believe so, but I wouldn't swear.
Do you know,
Given
Commissioner
that-
Kenny, whether they do?
Given that we
I'm
have,
not sure.
Pardon me?
I believe so.
Is it on, are they treated as individual phone systems like our house, or is it on some network at the nursing home?
I don't know.
I would think, I think a lot of them may have cell phones and they don't have to use
Oh, okay.
central phone.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like we're gonna exceed the 125 or so phones around here very rapidly.
Oh, I see. So, I will check into it.
Thank you, Peter.
We good so far?
Yep.
Am I giving you the type of information you need, or are we doing,
You're doing fine.
okay.
My own
All right.
opinion, Peter, I wish there had been people come in over the years like you that explain it. You're getting a lot of questions because we're seeing how the system works and learning from it.
All right.
We don't have that from other people that come in here.
All right, good. Then,
That's a compliment. in case you-
thank you. I appreciate it.
And he didn't give very often.
All right. Well,
And I hope you don't mind the questions.
No,
but
not
that's
at
how-
all.
That's
You're
how we're
at-
all learning.
you're asking good and logical questions. I don't want to sound presumptuous. You know, it's your mission or duty to help make good decisions for the county, so it only makes sense that you'd want to know these things. So, okay. So, the bad news was you're going to have to do something. The good news is that's not necessarily a bad thing because of a few reasons. I'm going to back up a couple, and then I'll come back to here, okay? As I mentioned, NEC made the logical decision when they developed this new equipment to say, we're not going to leave all the old customers in the dust, okay? Let's make it so that they can move forward with minimal impact, some of which is technology, which I showed you, in that you can reuse a lot of what you have, if that's what you want to do. And let's also give the customers some discounts above and beyond what other customers would get for whatever new equipment and phones they are purchasing as part of the initial purchase. Okay?
The 5-year warranty, you have to pay for that, or how else would it be optional?
Any
It's a code
manuf-
word for pay later.
Yeah,
any manufacturer will provide a 1-year warranty on the parts and equipment. NEC is no different than any of the others. If you wish to purchase the equipment with a standard 1-year warranty, parts and labor, that's what you would have. But there's an option when you first buy the equipment. NEC says if you want to pay a little bit more as a one-time charge, you can get 4 additional years of warranty on the hardware. Doesn't cover the labor, but the parts would be covered for 4 additional years, any of the new parts that you buy.
And what is that little tiny increase?
Depending on what size or how much equipment you initially purchase. You know, I mentioned earlier, I gave you a very broad ballpark from 8,000 to 15,000. That one-time fee would be somewhere between $800 to $1,000 one time,
To
depending
pick up
on.
the extra 4 years.
Yes, sir.
That sounds like a good investment.
Yes, ma'am.
How long does the loyalty discount last?
It's the initial purchase.
So after you've made a particular what I'm thinking is, suppose we did not need a particular part at this time. When we did need that part, is that?
That's not
it
available
would
to
be-
you, okay? It is when you first buy it, whatever you're buying at that time,
Or you're gonna have to pay later.
okay? We good so far?
Now, the SV 8100, if we get a new component, the 8100, the component that we have now, do we still have to keep that, or can we just get rid of that and replace it with that?
You have the choice of doing the migration I showed you earlier, meaning keep the existing in place and reuse as much of that as you can, or you could go all brand new if that's what you want and if you felt that was in the best interest of the county.
Well, I think that's what my point is. If we go to the SV 8100, do we end up then where we have to get other equipment that's compatible with this?
I'm not sure I understand exactly where you're going. If you replaced everything that's there today,
No, I think what you said, the way I understand it, if we get the 8100, that's compatible with what we have now. You just put in a new board here and a new board there, and everything else can work.
yeah,
But if we take the main item, the component that the 8100 is replacing, if we get rid of that, does that mean we have to get other equipment too that's new, that is compatible with the 8100?
well, okay. Let me try to answer the question. Whoops. If you reuse the old equipment, here's essentially what you'd have. This first box, if you will,
Yep.
talking to the old
Now, if we
equipment.
get rid of that,
If you get rid of
if the
this,
8100 replaces that,
you would simply put more
Move a few cards.
of these cabinets in so that you would have probably that right there, 2 of those boxes.
or would that also mean that the other equipment, the telephones it's themselves or whatever, would have to be replaced to be compatible with this?
The old phones could be reused. You also have the choice to purchase new ones if you wish,
Okay.
okay? And I would suggest that it makes logical and financial sense to buy at least 10 new phones, because part of the discount programs that NEC has when you purchase some new hardware, one of those programs says if you buy at least 10 new phones, not only are we going to give you the discount that we would give you to buy an 8100, we're going to give you an extra discount on top of that on the phones and all the basic hardware that you're purchasing, to the point where, I don't want to sound presumptuous, it's a no-brainer. It would cost you less to buy the new box with 10 phones than if you just bought the new box and you didn't buy 10 phones.
What is the discount that you're giving? You keep talking about discounts. What percentage?
It's
what
about
is it?
15%.
15%.
Yeah.
Now, Peter, let's not be presumptuous. They give the discount to you. They don't give it to us.
Well,
You turn around and that's my question.
Yeah.
Do you turn around and guarantee that you pass their full discount onto your customer, or do you rake off a little bit?
I can tell you that I do pass it on, and I have passed it on for the quotes that I gave to Jason.
Thank you.
And that's not It's not a complex scenario, and I don't want to sound presumptuous. I've been doing this for 25 years. That doesn't give me any great brilliance. I've just been around the block a few times, and I know that the more benefits that I pass on to you, financially and technology-wise, the better chance I have to retain you as a customer. So it's not complicated.
I guess the big question is, if we kept the old system after September, how long would we be able to get parts? In other words, how long would we be able to use the old system and be able to get parts for it? And that's going to be based on what their inventory is, and how much they put in an inventory. So can we use the system for another 3 years? Even though they stopped making the parts, they've got enough in inventory where they could supply us probably for another 2 or 3 years. Or no, they're going to run out of parts in 3 months or 4 months. So that's the big question.
Maybe I'm wrong, but as I read this, it really doesn't make any difference, Frank, because if they can't replace that part, they can replace it with one of the new ones in the box, so it's not like we're gonna be shut down.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if we kept everything in the old system the way it is now, how long would we be able to keep it? That's what I'm thinking about. If we go to the new system, we have to decide, are we gonna migrate piecemeal, or are we gonna just go in, and load everything up with the new system?
She may have an insight there.
I think Representative McCarthy, you don't play craps. This is something he could not possibly, I don't think, answer you.
He can't, but maybe the company can.
How would they be able to know which people are going to need replacements that you need at a later time, to know how much when it is that we here need that part, will it be available? That's an impossible question to answer.
Well, I think that company, they've been in business long enough, and they've gone through this before, I'm sure. They would have some kind of an answer that, yes, we can supply parts for a year or 2, or no, we can only supply them for 2 or 3 months. They will have an answer, I know they will.
Respectfully, I don't think you'll
And
get a specific answer. If they have 10 of something in stock, they have no way of knowing how soon they'll get orders for those. And they may be there 3 years from now, or 6 months from now, they may be gone. So it's not something that they can tell in advance how quickly that stock will be gone.
How many other organizations that you're dealing with are going through this same problem?
Pretty much every manufacturer in the industry has already done this.
No, I'm talking about other counties or that
I'm
you
sorry.
personally deal with.
I misunderstood the question. We're a huge NEC dealer. Out of New Hampshire, we have about 400 customers, and probably 2/3 of those are NEC customers and either have migrated already, or I've met with them to essentially do the same thing I'm doing for you folks today, and have provided quotes for them to move forward. So
Well, when they go to the new system, what do they do with the old stuff?
goes to the crusher. Anything that's not reused.
Well, maybe we could get a hold of some of those and say, hey, look, when you go to the new system, give us all your old stuff so we can have parts.
As part of the migration program, NEC makes us send them the old parts so that they go to the crusher.
They recycle it anyway, they get a lot of, they take the metal out of it and so forth.
They get you coming and going, don't they, huh?
Wait.
Respectfully, I'd have, again, just my opinion, I think they have come up with a very good program to move the customers forward. And looking at the costs of doing that, again, I'm not gonna sound, hopefully not sound presumptuous. To do this would be least expensive than any other thing you could do.
The problem that I have, it's not a problem, but the problem I'm having thinking about this, I guess, which is not necessarily favorable to you, but we've got two systems in the county.
At least.
And at least, okay, well, let's say this one in nursing home, it's count. I don't have any doubt that this is an excellent system, based on what I've seen, not a doubt in my mind. I haven't seen anything on the system in the nursing home. So the question that comes to my mind, are we better off to take this and then migrate this into the nursing home as things become old? Or should we or should we leave this the old one as it is, and when it happens, replace it with the system that's in the nursing home? And I don't know a thing about the system in the nursing home, so I'd have to get the same type presentation first to see it. But to me, that's an important, very important decision that you have to make, because I feel very strongly that the whole county should be on the same system.
Well, with that thought, consider that we also have a jail, excuse me, not a jail, a sheriff's office, we have the registrar of deeds, and we have this building.
Yeah. The only one that I still think it should be on the same one. The only one I might make an exception to, and then only if it were some sort of security reasons, would be the one for the sheriff's office. But all the rest of them, I think, should be on the same, at least on, but that's my feeling. It makes sense to me to deal with, I mean, it could easily be your system, but it makes sense to me to deal with one vendor and keep the whole thing going rather than have it all split up all over the place. And they probably, if you ever want to, they probably couldn't talk to each other anyway, so.
That's why I believe we should have a purchasing agent and a contract agent here at the county, so that everything is centralized and compatible with each other. And, you know, instead of going out and buying a piece for this and then a piece for this, you know.
Agreed, Frank.
It's a lot better if everything's on the same system all the way around. But that doesn't answer the immediate question.
Okay, we good?
What would it cost if, rather than going piecemeal and migrating slowly, what would it cost to just redo the entire system now? With all your
15,000.
discounts and all the rest of it, what would?
If you went, I'll answer that specifically. If you went with what I'll call a direct replacement, okay? Same number of phones, voicemail, the standard software that comes with it, none of the fancy bells and whistles, so to speak. It's just under $12,000, okay? And that cost includes the extended warranty that I mentioned earlier, that would provide you with 5 years of coverage on the parts and 1 year coverage on the labor. Okay?
Is there any guarantee that next year they won't say, hey, we're gonna discontinue making parts, you need a new system?
Sure. Absolutely there is. As I mentioned earlier, I've been doing this a long time. Manufacturers don't change their models every year or every couple of years. They come up with a new design or new model, if you will, and typically those run 10 to 15 years before they say, okay, we have to move on to something different because of technology needs. I'd say you can easily expect that the 8100 that's been on the market for 2 years now will have at least a 10-year lifespan and maybe a lot longer than that. And one reason for that, or a couple reasons for that, is unlike older systems, it's more software based than it is hardware based. so that when it needs to be upgraded, in most cases, it's going to be